Are you planning on racing Challenge Almere in Amsterdam this year? Well, if so, this is the video for you because in it, I'm going to talk to an experienced coach who has good local knowledge of the course, and we're going to talk through all you need to know about the swim, the bike, the run, transitions. We'll talk a little bit of equipment and all the rest, and we'll just generally tell you what you need to know. So, who are we, and how are we going to do that? Well, my name is Coach Steve or Steven Moody from Dublin, Ireland. I'm an Ironman U certified coach who has now recently become a YouTuber who does these race reviews of 70.3s, Ironman, full distance courses. And I do what I think athletes need. They want to ask questions about the course. So I find people who know the course, who've either raced it, who have had athletes race it, and I ask them all the questions you need to know. And that's how we help you out. And in this, I am delighted to talk to Coach Mark from the UK, who has actually got experience of athletes on this course. And I'm going to get him. Mark, you want to give us a little bit of background to yourself in terms of your coaching and your experience of the course before we get into some questions?
Yes, of course, Steve. Hi. So, yeah, based in the southeast of England, and I run Kairos Multisport, predominantly triathlon coaching, but also a bit of running as well. I guess I've been doing that for just over 5 years now. I fell out of love with the corporate world and fell in love with getting people across the finish line and their journey to achieving their goals.
Fantastic. And you have got athletes on this course before. You've got helped coach athletes complete this course?
Yes, so my wife is actually Dutch. So she did her first
Inside knowledge.
70.3 back in 2017. And that was when I first did the long course as well, my first long course with five other mates. And since then, I've had a client, an athlete, to complete it in 2022. And then he came back for more in 2023 when my wife did her first long course. And I also did it again in 23 for a second time. So, yeah, done it twice and had a couple of people going through it as well.
And you've also managed to coach your wife to do it, and she didn't kill you, which is quite impressive.
Yes, we're still married.
Fantastic. Excellent. Okay, cool. So you know the course, you've done it and all the rest, and you've got inside knowledge with the whole Dutch connection. Love it.
Yep.
So let's literally dive in, if you excuse the pun, to where we'll start off in the swim course. So the swim itself, you want to tell us a little bit what people can expect on the day? How do they enter the water? What's the water temperature? Is it wetsuit legal normally? What was your experience?
Yeah, certainly. So it's sort of beginning of September. So although the air temperature can change quite a bit, the water temperature is usually sort of like high teens. So I've not known it to be non-wetsuit, although it is usually a championship event. So the pros and the age groupers may well have obviously their wetsuit temperature restrictions, but for a normal person turning up there, expect to wear a wetsuit. As you can see on the right-hand side of the screen there, you've got T1 over by the finish, and then sort of middle top on the esplanade, you've got the start. So you need to walk from T1 where you've left your bike in the morning. It's about 650 meters, so a quarter of an hour or so to walk to the start. It's a rolling start, get in the water, wait for not a rolling start, get in the water and wait for the gun to go. And off you swim in that sort of two-lap counterclockwise direction. I guess the key thing to remember is after the second lap, you turn off to transition and not carry on towards the start again, which I saw a few people turning straight on sort of thing, so turning right into the transition area. So don't make that mistake. The other good thing is it's quite clear water. So it's not particularly deep. You won't be able to stand up, but you can see well in it. It's fresh water. It's a lake. Get a bit of wind chop if it's windy, but apart from that, it's a really nice swim. I guess the top tip is that they have a thing called a weed eater, which goes around the week before and essentially clears the swim path from essentially pondweed. So don't stray too far off the path, otherwise you'll find yourself swimming in weed. But if you stay in the nice sort of like 4 or 5 meter wide path they actually plough through there, then it's a really nice swim.
Fantastic. Yeah, so it's quite different to an Ironman. Most of the races I've done so far have been Ironman, and they're all rolling swim starts from again, from a beach start or a boy start. This looks like it's a floating water start, and then they're broken up by age group. I know the pros go off first, and then they break it into male certain age groups. Is that correct? It's a floating start?
It is, yes. You sort of walk down some steps and then wait for the gun to go at the end of the pontoon. And yeah, what they tend to do is let the pros get around their first lap, and then the age groupers will go so they don't actually get in the way of the pros. And then once most of the age groupers have gone through on their first lap, then everybody else starts rolling through. So you get a few people overtaking you, but generally everybody's sorted themselves out and everybody's swimming around with people at a similar pace and no one getting in their way.
Cool, excellent. Yeah, and as you know yourself, Marcus, and key thing with the long distance swimming is getting a good effective draft. So even with the Ironman swims, it typically you can you know what corral people are in, so that you're going to be in with the 90-minute swimmer. But for me, in these situations, I start talking to people, ask them what time they're hoping to do or what they've done, and if I do find a kind of like a 70-minute swimmer, I just sort of they'll be my best friend, and I'll follow them into the water like a little lap dog, and I hope to God they've told the truth because then I can stick on their feet and they can do a little bit of work for me because my swimming is appalling, so I need as much work as people as I can get
Yeah,
to
yeah. I mean,
stay on people's feet.
yeah, that's great. I mean, as you can see, there's a couple of little signs there for like a theatre just sticking out into the water. That's actually quite a tight point to get through. So everybody's swimming to that first buoy into the distance over to the left there. But there's that pinch point to stay in the lane going around this theatre that sticks out into the water. So the first turn buoy is really quite busy. So I tend to find that after that first turn buoy, and even onto the second one, when you get into the next long straight, then that's the time to start finding people and settling down and just starting to enjoy it. As you say, find some feet that's going at a similar pace to you.
Yeah, now perfect. So again, so likely going to be wetsuit, nice clean water. I like that weed choppery thing. And again, simple enough. Follow the boys round, and then making sure you're turning off to transition. How do you exit the water? Is it a ramp or a pontoon out of the water, or is it stairs, or how does that work?
Yeah, there's some stairs, usually a couple of flights of stairs. I guess depending on where you come in with the crowd. The times I've done it and my clients done it, it hasn't been particularly crowded. And yeah, they're just normal stairs that you can swim up to and then put your knees up and step on and off you get. So probably 10 or 15 steps, if that. So it's quite easy to get out.
Cool. And there are volunteers helping you as well if your legs are a bit jellyish.
Yes, I mean that's I think one of the great things about Challenge Almere is the volunteers. Plenty of water safety crew out on the lake. They've got boats and canoes as you'd expect, and then plenty of people in T1 from when you turn up in the morning, getting out the water. I didn't see anybody actually helping anybody out of a wetsuit, but I would imagine if you lay down on your back and wiggled your feet, someone would probably help you if you looked at them in a nice way.
Yeah, no, that's it. That's one thing from my experience of these races. It's a very much an American thing where they have what they call wetsuit peelers. I call them strippers, but like again, that's a me being Irish. It seems to be just the kind of North American races where they have those wetsuit peelers.
Mhm.
So yes, do definitely make sure you can get out your own wetsuit. And again, what I get my guys to do when they're doing the open water swimming, we have a competition at the end. Who gets the wetsuit off first, or who last person out of the wetsuit is buying the coffee and scones. You want to see how quick the people get out when they know that there's potential bill for five coffees and five scones coming. But again, something definitely to practice. Any other last minute tips on the swim course? It looks like a nice start to the day in the lake.
It is. I mean, it starts quite early on. So when you get to T1 to just put your final bag in, sort of thing, it's still pretty dark. The pros go off pretty much as soon as the sun rises. So the sun is pretty low when you're swimming. The As you can see, the direction there, swimming that first length. If you're looking over to the left, if you swim and turn your head to the left, then you're going to be facing straight into the sun. Likewise, if you're swimming down that main straight, you're going into the sun pretty much. So there's quite a bit of glare off the water. There's very little around the outside of the course in the lake to actually fix anything. So my top tip there would be to get some tinted polarized glasses just to take that glare off the water, so you can really see the buoys standing out.
Love it. Excellent tip. Okie doke. All right. So in terms of what you've got to get the swim cutoff times, you have 2 hours and 15 minutes from as your official start time, as in when the gun goes for your wave to get it done, which is unusual. It's 5 minutes quicker than the Ironman cutoff. But again, I don't think that if you've done your training and you got some open water swim practice in, you should be good to go. Alrighty. Okay, we will move on to transition. This is the overall transition zone. And this is our swim exit. Do you want to talk us through transition? You have to rack your bikes and your transition bags the day before, isn't that correct?
That is, yes. So the day before all the registration happens, I think you can register the day before that. Go to the event briefing in the morning of the day before. The race is on a Saturday, or always has been in the past. So that would be the Friday. So yeah, racking your bike Friday afternoon before you go and finish your carb loading, and leaving your bike bag there. So all you're bringing is your day bag essentially. It's a really, really simple, it's about 200-meter run across a bit of path and the carpet into that yellow area there, which is one of the main tents, where your bags will be waiting. So literally run into that, find your bag, take your wetsuit off, put your wetsuit in the bag, pick up your helmet. Some people will have their cycling shoes in their bags, so make sure you pick those with you. If not, they'll be on your bike from the night before, or obviously you've got access to the transition area the morning of the race just to put your hydration in or clip your shoes on, whatever you want to do. But yes, it's a clean bike area, and you've got bagged up bags ready and waiting for you in one spot for the bike and the run. So you come back to the same place after the bike to put your run gear on as well. So simple transition. Toilets all over the place, especially as you enter transition. So if you need to go to the loo after the wetsuit, taking your wetsuit off, then head there straight away. I always find it's better to go to the loo in transition than to get on your bike and think, now I need to go to the loo. And it's on your mind for as long as you can hold out for. So yeah, go and use the facilities there before I get busy out on the course.
Fantastic. And it looks a compact. It's a single transition or is it split transition?
No, single transition. They'll split it between the pros and the age groupers. They'll also split it between the 70.3 that goes on during the day and the long course as well. So it's reasonably tight, but I've always found there's enough distance between the racks. They have them nicely signposted, so you can have a walk through the day before from your bike back to the transition area, back to your bag area, and likewise from the bag area back to your bike, and then from your bike to the exit area. So it's always good to get that familiarization. Look out for landmarks that aren't going to move, so not a lorry that's dropping something off that won't be there the next day. I also find it's great to take some pictures or even a video before you go before you leave on the Friday, just so when you're sitting there on Friday nights, you can go, oh, where was it? You can look at the video and actually say, yeah, I remember where it was now. So you can really go to sleep the night before knowing where your bike is.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm a big fan of that myself. And again, just walking it the day before and taking notes. And again, look for those landmarks is key, as I don't make the mistake I make. When I was doing my first Ironman in Frankfurt, I went, wow, that's cool. I'm right beside a guy with a really luminous green bike. I'm never gonna miss that bike. Now, Mr. Green Bike was a way faster swimmer than I was. He was gone. But you're right. Something inanimate, a portaloo, if there's a sign or something, the number of the rack, write that down and said, just walk it. Walk it as if you're coming in from the swim, walk it if you're coming back in from the bike, and all the rest, and just make it simple because it looks quite simple, as you said. In, grab your bag. We'll talk a bit about the bags in a second. Wetsuit off, a helmet on, get your bike, and then out. And this is your bike out, and then you're onto the course. What's your top tip for top T1 tip for a newbie person at iron distance, Mark?
I would actually say take your time. Yeah, you're not going to win the race as a newbie in the transition area. Just make sure that anything you're putting on is comfortable, it's in the right place, and you've got everything you need with you before you leave that transition area. Nothing worse than getting on your bike a couple of pedals later and you find you haven't put your gels in your back pockets, or you've left a water bottle somewhere. So just take your time and make sure you've got everything before you leave.
No, absolutely. And that will prey on your mind as well, even if it is just something as simple as like a couple of gels. And you know that there's gels on course. It's just the race strategy is a little off kilter and you can lose 20 minutes thinking about it and go, actually, I can't actually influence that now. So just get back into the zone. But yeah, 100% agree with you. T1, take your time, nice and smooth. T2, you can be a lot quicker because there's a lot less to make a mess of. You're not talking about bikes, helmets, yada, yada. But no, I agree with you on the T1. Okay. Anything else? Any other top tips or any info on the transition? Seems a simple
Um,
enough in and out job.
Yeah, I mean it's in a park, so it's a grass ground. It can be a bit lumpy in places. The bike in comes in from the right hand side there. You can see the two parallel black lines. So you'll be entering the bike in a different place to where you exited. So that run is again on grass. It's a bit longer than the exit. So be prepared after the mount dismount line to have a little bit of a jog or a walk with your bike. As I say, it can be a bit bouncy. So if you're running with your bike, just make sure you're not going to clout yourself with your pedals or your water bottles are going to fall off or anything like that. And then obviously make your way back to your rack position.
Fantastic. Great. Love it. Okay, so we'll move on a wee bit now. Just again, we've made reference to bags, and you correctly call it a clean transition. Now, this is, I know it's referring to Ironman and 70.3 bags. Don't worry. The principles are the same. Um, Challenge and Ironman, just to make sure that they can allow many bikes in as possible and make it nice and clean and people aren't dropping over things. These are bag system where you said you'll have bag where you have all your bike stuff and then where you have all your run stuff. So there's, and it's quite simple when you think about it. Now, I'm when I was looking at this, I noticed that Ironman that Challenge used a different color, as in with Ironman it's blue for what was it swim to bike, except it's red for the bike bag. So I don't know if that's deliberate to confuse me or just to make them different to Ironman, but the principles are still the same. You need to know what's going to go in your bag, and where you're going to find it. This will be part of your flow and your walkthrough. So I've a little video there that will walk you through about what goes in each bag. But bear in mind, Challenge use a different color order. So the bike bag is red and the run bag is blue. I've got that right, haven't I?
Yes. Very confusing because I think B for bike should be blue.
Well, that's it. It's simple for the other, but again, that's why I had a little icon of my blue. I had to take that out. But again, yes, and again, it's in the active guide. Make sure you definitely see it, and you'll just map that out the day before. And
Yeah.
back to Coach Mark's other point about when you're filling your bags, you've most people have smartphones. Take a picture of what you're going in the bag, and because you'll leave it that night, and you'll be in the bag going, "Did I put my sunglasses in my blue bag?" And you go, "Oh God!" And you could lose sleep, and it's all about minimizing stress the day before a race.
Yeah,
So what you
definitely.
call it? So at least you go on looking on the bag and go, oh, there it is. There's my bag. There's my shades that are in the bag. Groovy. And
Yeah.
then you go back to having a poor night's sleep before your race because you always do.
Yes, exactly.
Alrighty. A couple of other things as well. Like there's some other videos in the comments below. That in terms of those short videos about top transition tips for how to find your bike, how to lay out your shoes, how to run with the shoes attached to it, and also as Coach Mark pointed out, it needs to be able to take off your wetsuit. There's little videos in the comments below that will help you with that. And now we will move on. I hope you're enjoying the video. I do a lot of these videos with coaches from all around the world, and I'm only delighted that Mark has agreed to be interviewed. So please do like and subscribe for the video because it'll help the channel a lot. And please, as you can see here, that Mark is a very knowledgeable coach. He's already given some great tips as well. That's his website. If you want to contact him and maybe help you get ready for Challenge Almere next year, this year, or even any other long distance course. He's a bloody nice bloke and knows his stuff. That's in the comments below, and make sure you do check him out. Okay, enough publishing of our services, but now back on to the bike course. It's known for being a fast bike course. Was that your experience when you raced it, or what was your findings?
Yeah, it's an interesting course actually. It is one of the faster triathlons on the circuit. The average finish time overall is sub 12.
Wow.
So it can be very quick. It can also be very demanding. Being in the Netherlands, it's very flat, and that can mean the wind picks up. You can see some of the windmills there on the map there. So it's full of windmills, and if they're spinning quickly, that's when I start worrying because being quite a lightweight, my overall, my ultimate power is quite low. And although it's a fat course and you can get up to a nice speed, as soon as you get some wind, it's better for probably a heavier, slightly more powerful person in those situations, especially as you can see going up that long straight, which is heading up the northeast. Prevailing winds will come from the north or the northeast, perhaps. So it could be in your face all the way along there. And essentially, from the bottom of that straight all the way along that dike to the top near Lillestad, it's about 22k. And that can seem an awful long time if there's a headwind. If there's no wind, then it's a lovely day out in the sun, looking over the birds flying off in the morning, bit of mist in the sky usually, and it can be an awesome ride.
And in terms of the road surface, I presume, is it closed roads, as in no traffic on it, or?
Yeah, most certainly. So obviously, Netherlands have got a great cycling infrastructure. A lot of the paths are cycle paths. If you use cycle paths in the UK, then readjust your mind to what a cycle path is. These are nice and smooth. Bikes have priority over vehicles in the Netherlands, but it is essentially a closed road apart from any marshals that might be out on bikes and a possible car getting from A to B. But yes, it's a closed road. It's generally a very smooth surface, nice fast rolling surface. It's very clean, so hopefully punctures will be far and few between. And yes, it's pretty straight. Having said that, though, the corners that are on the course, as you can see there, are pretty
Yeah.
sharp. You won't find a nice flowing corner. You'll come across 90-degree turns, which can very much catch you out. You know, you can be cruising along for half an hour or so, if not longer, without a corner in sight, and all of a sudden come to a corner. So you really need to keep your wits about you, especially at the end of that long straight across the dike there, heading up northeast. You get to that little corner at the end there, and you know, if you're doing 38 kilometers an hour, 36 kilometers an hour, whatever, you need to put your brakes on. You need to stand up a bit and slow down to an appropriate speed to get around these corners.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Especially on the second lap. And it is a 2 lap course.
It is.
Like you'll be a little bit tired, a little bit fatigued and all the rest. And you, as I said, you're already starting to think about the marathon. But again, it's a case of, as you said, making sure that you're aware of these corners. And they're easy enough to mark. We've got one at 40, etc., and that the one at 60. And again, what I will do from my tips is I'll write because there's no hills to write on, what I normally write on when I expect to come to a climb. And of course, if there's anything that I need to be awake for, it's like this is where the aid stations are. This is where the big corners are. I'll have it written down in terms of numbers. So every now and again I look down. Okay, in 5 kilometers there's an aid station as well. Um, I'm thinking this sounds very much like a TT bike course. If you have it, what's your feedback on that?
Yeah, most certainly. I mean, my wife did the 70.3 and actually the full distance on a road bike with kip on tri bars. But yes, if you want to make the most of the circuit, it is definitely a tri bike circuit. As I say, the corners are quite sharp, so it's pretty much slow down, get around the corner, get into aero position again, and get back up to speed.
Fantastic. And you
And
mentioned
then
the
again,
wind.
just going back to the corners, it's very well marshalled. There'll be marshals with whistles or with flags telling you there's a sharp corner coming up. So, you know, you'd have to ignore quite a bit of shouting at you to not see a corner, but it could happen.
Yeah. But that's the thing though as well. Yes, the marshals are there for your safety. They're not trying to slow you down. They're not trying to take away from your PB. Listen to them, but they're out like marshals are hard to get. So if they're at a corner with a flag, it's for a reason. Do
Yeah.
listen to them, and it's not a case of they're trying to take because they're actually trying to stop you spilling out over the side and ending up into the water. No, great call. You mentioned the wind. So what about if you were disc wheels or sort of deep section wheels? Would you think yes, no, or is it risky? Or
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends how experienced you are in using them in the wind. I would always take a skinny set of wheels. I don't have a rear disc. I've got some Zip 404s, so they're reasonably deep, but not particularly deep. As a 63 kilo triathlete, I probably wouldn't go any deeper on this course because I'll just get blown around all over the place. So again, I guess you're a heavier athlete and you've got the experience, then you could get away with a disc on a windy day. There definitely were disc wheeled bikes out there on the last one we did, which was just the perfect day to go for a bike ride. There wasn't a breath of wind in the air. The previous time we did it, there were thunderstorms and hailstorms, horizontal hailstorms, and yeah, there were probably people set out with disc wheels. But I probably would have, if I had a disc wheel that day, I'd have probably put the low profile wheels on and just accepted it.
Yeah, no, yeah. So if you have them, and again, I would be of the same approach to that. I tend to bring two sets of wheels, like as in one my perfect A race, as in weather, and B as in like it might just get round the course, as in it's gonna be. It's interesting to mention that like one day it was perfect, the other day was thunderstorms as well. I think
Mm.
that leads into what you should pack. And again, when I've got athletes or I'm going to a race myself, I always pack everything. Everyone goes, oh, like as in especially like I'm going to race Texas in 3 weeks' time. I've raced Texas before. I know it can be hot. I know it can be absolutely cold. So I will bring like was it wind cheaters, etc. And I'll bring my shorts, sleeve stuff, and all the rest. So you'll be able to make a call on it 2 days out. You
Yeah,
won't be able to make a call out of it like was it a week before you're flying out early. Just make sure that you have it in your bags or you've brought it over because the age-old phrase I use with my guys is it's better to be looking at it than for it. And even
right.
if it's uncertain how the weather will go in the morning, you can put your wind, was it your rain jacket in the bag? And if you come out and the sun is splitting the stones, you don't need it and you leave it there. If it's starting to look a bit overcast, you put it on and that's the win on the day. Cool. Any other tips or hints for people looking to ride this bike course, Mark?
Just I guess be careful. Sometimes it gets a bit narrow in places. The main dike going up, we mentioned a couple of times, that long straight patch is pretty wide. You know, you could get three, four, five bikes overtaking on there. But when you get to the end and start heading back down towards the south again, there's a few narrow places. And then down at the very bottom left right bottom right hand corner there where it gets a bit wiggly, you go through some farm areas. So it's clean, but it's more of a farm track as opposed to perhaps a road that you're on. So there's a few narrower places. So again, just keep your wits about you. Make sure you're looking ahead. Make sure you're staying focused every minute you're on the bike and you're aware of fatigue setting in, or possibly even a bit of monotony if you're getting a bit fed up going along the straight. Just keep your wits about you and keep looking out for where it's getting narrower, or possibly a group of riders you might be catching up, or if a group of riders have just gone past you. So you've got somewhere to slow down if it gets a bit narrow and you're not going to end up going off the road.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, that's key as well because it is a long time on the bike. You'll be on this bike between 5 to 7 hours, and you can drift off, and that's why you need to communicate and not keep your wits about you and all the rest because you have to dodge these elks and these horses as well, which I think are going to make it very interesting.
Yes, we've not seen an elk in the wildlife park yet, so I think birds is the only wildlife we've seen.
I just think that's much more like that's going to keep your athletes focused. There could be animals that will jump out. They'll be all on it.
Yeah.
All right. In terms of the cutoff times, you have until 2:05 to get around the first loop, and you've got till 5:50 p.m. to get around the second loop, which again, if as Mark was saying, keep focused, keep on your strategy, keep nice and aero if it's that day, or and just keep, was it making sure you're taking those corners nice and safely, and you'll be okay. The one thing I'm going to mention here as well, as in Mark mentioned there as well, if you're getting fatigue and hungry and all the rest, it's key to making sure you keep on top of your nutrition. This video here shows about how an actual aid station will work in an Ironman distance, but also in just a standard full distance where they have the layout. Some key things to note: there will be, I believe, it will be the same in Challenge. You, the only place you can throw litter in on the race is between the start of the aid station and the end of the aid station. Why is that? Because it means that a challenge can tidy up the area afterwards and be as if we were never there. We are guests in Amsterdam. We have to respect it. And if we start throwing around water bottles, gel wrappers, and all the rest, we will be known as a community of dickheads. And we don't want that. We want to be known as people who bring energy, respect the country, and all the rest. So that's a key thing. And again, I firmly believe that if you're caught littering on course, you get disqualified in a challenge race. Is that the same, your understanding, Mark?
It's exactly the same penalties, yes.
Fantastic. Otherwise, again, the how it will work is there will be water, there'll be isotonic gels, bars, and bananas, etc. This video shows you how to use an aid station. Myself and Mark guaranteed we could talk about wax lyrical for the next hour about how aid station etiquette and all the rest. I've done it, pulled together a short little video which shows you demos, key things to remember, communications, being aware, talking to the volunteers, thanking the volunteers, and making eye contact, practicing slowing down, grabbing a bottle and putting it in before you actually get to an aid station. Because these aid stations are high reward. You need them to fuel for your long day, but they're also high risk in terms of there's volunteers, there's bottles, there's litter, there's riders coming in and out. They might be a little bit nervous. You've got to keep yourself safe at this point, and this video shows you how. In terms of what you will get at challenge, I pulled this from the athlete guide. So bananas, power bar, energy gel, sports drink, and I like this. They do this cool thing where they actually have bibs on them that where you don't have that in some Ironman races, so you know what is coming up. If someone's green, your food, gel, ESO, or water. Anything you want to add about the aid stations and challenge races there, Coach Mark?
No, I mean, as you described, it's very similar to what you expect in any long course triathlon. I guess top tip is, as you've mentioned already, is just to plan ahead when you're coming up to it. You know, have a look who's around you, ahead and behind, just in case someone's coming up pretty quick behind you. Make sure that you're slowing down in plenty of time so that you can grab what you want without dropping it, without missing it. Because I think there was only 4 aid stations per lap. So there's quite a distance in between each one.
Yeah,
20,
no,
22.5 kilometers there, roughly. So you don't want to go missing an aid station, especially if it's a hot day and you miss your water and start running out. So it's paramount that you plan these and go through at a pace where you know you're going to be able to collect everything and give yourself a little bit of margin as well. I've always found the volunteers are well versed there. I think they have the same people coming back year after year, but you never know. You might get someone who hasn't done it before and might not just hold the bottle quite as well as somebody else. So give them a bit of leeway to be able to slow down a bit so you can really get hold of that water bottle and not drop it.
yeah, no, absolutely. To be honest, I 100% think the volunteers are really well trained and they got it. What I find the biggest danger are actually athletes. As in when I was in, was it Venice? There was again a guy on a really super turbocharged bike and disc wheel and all the trimmings. I thought this guy knows his stuff. He went in and it's as if he'd never seen an aid station. He slammed on his brakes, just like right beside a volunteer. The wheel came up and he flipped, like he wiped out his bike, took out a couple of guys. And you're sort of, as you said, you need to be aware of people in front, behind, because you don't want to end up your race ruined because someone didn't practice it, didn't know, didn't plan ahead that like, okay, I've got 2 bottles that will get me to the third aid station, even if I drop one. And then at that stage, I'm going to make sure I'm going to communicate. I'm going in, aid station, eye contact with a volunteer. I'm looking for water, water, and then you go. So again, high risk, high reward.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think actually, if it's your first long course, you may not have actually used the bigger 750 milliliter water bottles before. So they're larger, they're longer than a standard bike bidon. So it'd probably be worth getting one from a local bike shop and just making sure they actually fit in your frame with 2 bottles, or make sure you're getting used to taking one out behind your saddle and putting it back in again, because the different size can mean you're going to have to be looking down a bit, which might lose concentration. So top tip there would be to actually practice on your training rides with a 750 milliliter bottle so you know how to reach down for it and put it back in again.
Absolutely. And again, what I do as well, like for my athletes, I get guys and they go like, "Oh, how am I going to practice? I don't have an eight." All you need to do at the end of your long ride is actually have one of your family, your friends, or whatever, stand out and at the end offer you the bottle, and you go, "Okay, right," and then you just learn, and you'll knock it out of their hands the first time, a bit of a giggle, but again, do it a couple of times. You go, actually, yeah, I just need to slow down, grab, touch, make sure I'm balanced, and then put the bottle in.
Yeah.
Practice it, and then suddenly it's not as daunting as in like, oh wow, I'm doing a long course, I'm gonna be tired, I need to worry, it's hot, I never put a bottle in, and as you said, using the actual shape of the size of bottle will help you as well. Okie doke. All right, so we'll move on now. We have now we're back to transition 2, where we're going to transition from our bike to a run. Again, we have our transition bags. This time it's going to be the blue
Blue bag, yep.
There you go, blue bag. Again, the video goes through what you need to put in there, but we'll talk a little bit about. There's some tips here about how to transition from bike to run, some shorts. I will show the map here. Now, you want to talk to a little to the T1 and any tips you have from running this course, Mark, for
Yes,
your.
certainly. So already mentioned, I guess the bike in being a bit longer than the bike out. It is a grassy area, so expect it to be a little bit rutted. So if you're going to be running with your bike, it's going to be bouncing around a bit. So just be prepared for a bit of movement on the bike when you're running beside it, and making sure you're keeping a little way from it. If it moves around, you're not going to get caught with it. I guess the key thing with any triathlon is to make sure you know where the dismount line is. You'd have done your 179, 180 kilometers before you get there. You're going to be tired. You're going to be going at a reasonable pace. So make sure you're planning that point. Make sure you're taking your feet out of your shoes if you're going to keep your shoes on your pedals, or make sure you're unclipping before you get there, and don't do the horrible stop and then fall off because you haven't unclipped. So again, plan ahead, keep your wits about you, and make sure you stop before you get to that dismount line. And like with the transitions, have a look behind you, see who's coming up behind you before you get there, just to make sure that when you do stop, there isn't going to be someone right up your backside and getting in your way, shall we say. And then yes, it's a run or a walk into the transition area, back to where you picked your bike up in T1. And obviously leave your bike there, and then back into the exact same tent, to the same location where you left your sweatsuit in your bike bag, and your run bag will be hanging next to it. And then it's off with everything that you don't need for the run, including obviously your helmet. Tip out your running stuff from the run bag, put your bike stuff into it, hook it back up again, put your running shoes on and cap and glasses and everything else you want. Obviously, there's a toilet stop there if you need the toilet before you go out for your run, and then head out on the run.
Yeah, no, agreed. And T2 does seem to be of a lot smoother kind of event than the T1. As I said, you can actually go through this a little bit quicker. And my guys, we kind of firmly believe in nothing good happens in transition two, as in like get the bike, rack it, get in, get your runners on, and then start moving. Because if you sit down, you just go, oh, I've got a marathon to run. And like it's very daunting, as in like you see lots of lads stretching their hamstrings, and they're just was trying to delay the inevitable. So our guys, we have a rule. If you're using sunnies and a baseball cap or a visor, everything's wrapped in. The minute you get your runners on, you start moving, because you can put your baseball cap on, put your sunglasses on, put your race bib on, take a gel. And at that stage, if you've done that, you're halfway up the road, and you sort of go, okay, I've already knocked off half a kilometer. Whereas if you sit there and you're pulling on your cap and you're talking about it, you start talking to someone transition, just get it in, get out. And again, you'll know, as you said, Mark, by walking your T2 route as well beforehand. What's your top tip? As I said, like, what's your biggest learning you've ever had in transition two? Or
I think it's probably exiting transition two and thinking, yes, I've got this, and going off too quick. So although with Almere, you've got quite a long run walk into dropping your bike off in T2, so you can loosen up your legs a bit there. But yeah, I would say a little walk out of the tent, and then just start a nice steady jog out of transition two and get on the course, and just spend a while just settling into it. Don't go off too quick. As you say, don't think about it too much. Just get moving, get moving slowly, and settle into everybody else running around.
No, absolutely. And we'll talk a little bit we'll move on to that, brings us brilliantly onto the run course. So this is our transition area, which is here, and we run out. Talk to us on the run course around the perimeter of the lake. What do people expect surface wise? Is there any elevation in here, or?
Well, like the bike, very little elevation. It's I think the bike actually had 30 meters over 180 kilometers, which is absolutely nothing. And a nice fact is that pretty much the whole bike course is below sea level, as is the run course. So I think actually this lake that we're running around is -3 meters below sea level. So it's a low flat course. Like with the bike, it's pretty wide, it's paved, it's smooth. You run on a combination of footpaths and a few cycle paths. as you can see here, you head out of transition, heading up to the top of the map and past swim start. And
Mm.
essentially, you run past the finish line pretty much within the first couple of kilometres. So that whole area there is full of people cheering everybody on. It can be a bit disheartening because sometimes the pros might be finishing at the same time as you're starting your first lap. So somewhere on your first lap, you're probably going to hear the commentator saying the first pros are coming through, which just try and ignore it. You're in your own race. They've done a great job, and you've got a few more laps to do. So
They
just
had a
settle
head
into
start,
your
Mark.
run.
That's the only reason they're winning. They had a head start.
Exactly. They started their swim beforehand. So yeah, you go past where you turn left eventually. But on the long distance, it is 4 laps of what, just over 10K. Um, so you've got a nice, reasonably short loop there. I quite like 4 laps. 2 laps in, and you're halfway there from a mental point of view. So you follow the edge of the river. Follow the edge of the lake, and then as you can see, you sort of go into the middle of the lake a bit, which goes into like a man-made island. It gets a bit wiggly there. Around about that 4 kilometre mark, you go over the water, which is probably the only incline. So there's a little bridge with a little gradient up over the other side, U-turn, come back again. But it's a slope, it's not a hill. And actually, I found it quite nice because everything else is so flat. It just uses your muscles a bit differently. It gives you a little bit of a workout with the arms a bit. You can stand up a bit, come down the other side, relax, and then you're back into the flats again when you come back over the bridge the second time after the U-turn. And there's a little bit of foresty area to run through there as well, which is quite nice if it's really sunny. Likewise, when you go past through the transition, when you're coming up to the end of the first lap, or the end of each lap, again, you're in the shade a bit there. So that's a nice welcome break to the sun if it's a sunny day.
Yeah, no, I love 4 laps as well because again, it helps me kind of pace myself and get my athletes. As I tell, the first lap is like, or break it into the 10Ks. You sort of go, look, first lap, just find your legs, as in try to just shake it out and all the rest, not think about it. Second and third lap, you sort of go and try to hit race pace or whatever. If you're what you worked out your own strategy or your heart rate zones, get more into that, like you would have done your long runs. And then the last 10K. I can't sugarcoat it. It always sucks, doesn't it? It always hurts because you're doing an Ironman distance, like a full distance race. And again, that's where you dig into your kind of mental tricks, a bag of tricks about visualization, mantras. Why are you doing this? Like, and looking for supportive faces in the crowd, and just suck it up, and then just start taking off. I'm heading towards the finish line. Um, any other
I
tips
think
that
I
you
think
can?
10K is pretty good because it's just 2 park runs. You've just got to do 2 park runs, and you're finishing that, crossing that line.
And then it's also like, as I said, when when you're doing your long training, you sort of go like, when you're looking at plan when it's really heavy, you go like, oh, only a 10K run tonight. And you go like,
Yes.
any other tips for the run course?
Um, Not really, I think. It was pretty straightforward. As you can see, there's the aid stations there. There's a lot of support around the city area, around the Esplanade is, and that top and left-hand side where there's lots of houses. You can see the lake throughout, so that's nice. I'd already mentioned that it's quite open, so if it is a sunny day, then probably in the morning you're going to put some sunscreen in before you get in the water anyway. But you might want to consider, even if it's September, you could get sunburnt. So if it's a sunny day, there's not much shade. So if you've got a sleeveless tri-suit on, you might want to put something on your shoulders perhaps. But again, plan for that in ahead. Possibly do that in transition and have a towel with you so you can get the sun cream off your hands before you start your run. Down the bottom right-hand corner there, get a bit quiet. But generally, you're running around various areas where there are pockets of support. So it's a nice run to do. I like it.
Yeah, no, it sounds good. And again, I don't know if it's I did Challenge Roth, and they actually had was it people helping you put sunscreen on in the T2 tent? Sorry, in T2.
Okay.
Um, because at that stage Roth was just El Scorchio.
Yeah.
And again in your lonely port here, like it's a bit of a contrast, I know, but again there's always runners around you, and I tell my guys, feed into other people's energy, pass on good energy, as in like sort of how you getting on, your form's good, having a good day, like, and you'll be able to, it'll have a bit of crack with them. It distracts you. It distracts the
Yeah.
fact you've got another 20, 30K to run.
Yeah.
Um, My
And there's
friends
a
tell me,
there's a there's a great triathlon club that the 3 years that I've been involved in it have always been there, and it's somewhere between that 7 and 8 kilometre mark, around that aid station. There's a triathlon club that comes out, and they've just got pom poms and a tunnel of cheering and an inflatable over the top, and they just it's something to look forward to every time you go around.
yeah, no, absolutely. And again, you feed in that energy, and you will get a boost. But so I tell my guys, don't start sprinting at that point. As I am.
No, slow down and enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, cool. In terms of the aid stations we mentioned, again, another thing I say to my guys, do never miss an aid station on a run. Like you will have tried to be fueling for the run on the bike, but especially if it's a hot day, you're taking on some sort of liquid, you're taking on some sort of salty isotonic drink, you're pouring water down your front, you're as I said, I tend to get my guys to leave the cola until the second last lap, because at that stage you need to, once you're on the sugary boost, you have to keep on it.
Yeah.
Any other tips for the run nutrition?
No, I think you've covered most things there. As you can see, they do a currant bun. I've forgotten what the Dutch is for it, but I'd probably stay away from that. It's reasonably heavy. Bananas, oranges, and the power bars, or just the carb-loaded drink. And as you say, possibly on the last lap, start having some cola as a reward to yourself, to that mental boost to get you around the last lap. But again, lovely volunteers, well thought through aid stations, and yeah, they're quite regular. Although the last time we did it in 23, the air temperature was like 30 degrees, and those aid stations could not come soon enough. It
Yeah,
was
no,
it was
absolutely.
it felt like a one and a 1.6 kilometers felt like 5 kilometers in between each one.
And it is, and
Thankfully,
you,
though, the fire brigade were out and they put in some hose pipes, essentially with holes in them, so making a nice rain curtain along a couple of areas. And each aid station had a tap and a hose pipe attached to it, so you could drench yourself in every aid station, along with the sponges and water butts as well.
fantastic. Oh, love it. And again, the same rules apply in terms of littering on the course, by the way. As I said, the run aid stations, as the bike aid stations, we are guests. Let's make sure we get invited back. Okay. In terms of the cutoff, again, you have to have started your last loop or last 10K loop by 10:05, and your cutoff is at 11:20. All right. We will
So I
move
guess
on.
I think just one thing, just before we move on from the run there, being September, it does get dark reasonably early. So a lot of people, especially first timers, would be finishing at night. One thing I found that was really good with Challenge at Almere here is that they handed out torches, head torches to
Oh,
the
cool.
runners. My wife still got hers, so she saw it as a free extra gift that I didn't get. Um, but yeah, I was slightly concerned when she was out running because at a getting on for a 15-hour finish time, there weren't too many people out there still. And in that wooded areas, it can get a little bit lonely. But she said there were so many marshals still out there. There were people on bicycles and motorbikes, more people than during the day out there looking after her. There was always someone she could see, and this head torch just obviously illuminated the way in some of the dark areas. So as a female athlete, triathlete, she felt very safe out there.
Fantastic. And they do take care of your challenge. I think that it's the unknown, well, it's the well versed, like that. They're a bit more athlete friendly than Ironman. And then that sort of stuff kind of stands out, which is great.
Totally agree.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
And in terms of your finish line, this is when I pulled up, as in that looks absolutely epic. As you said, this is one of the fastest fellas. But look at that finish line, the crowd, and all the rest looks great. That's what you need to start thinking about when you're on your second lap or your third lap, and you're thinking, you're wondering whether you can get your legs to move. Start visualizing that.
Yeah, and they have the confetti cannon going off all night, pretty much. Not
Yeah.
everybody gets them, but my wife happened to time it right, and I've got a photo very similar to that, with almost 15 hours up there and confetti just falling all over the place. So yeah, it's they keep the razzmatazz going for everybody, which is really good.
I want to get myself a confetti cannon. I don't think the missus will let me have one. But no, that sounds brilliant. Again, it's like they value all the finishers as well. So like as I said, if you're 8 hours, 15 hours, etc., fabulous. Alrighty. So just some final wrap up items. we've myself and Coach Mark have talked a little bit about the nutrition and all the rest. It's key to get it right in the day. There's a video in the comments below that will talk you through the kind of general principles and things you need to do about how to, when, how, what to eat for a full distance. Spoiler alert, it's all going to be very individual. You don't have to eat Morton gels. That's just the Morton gel people telling you that. Um, if you're lucky enough to travel to Amsterdam, you'll need a packing checklist about how to pack your bike if you're bringing it and recommendations. Another video in the comments below that will help you through that. And I always put this in because this is where I feel myself and Coach Mark earn our money. When 2 weeks out from the race, we start getting text, emails, WhatsApp, voice notes about people telling me that they really should do another 180k bike and they're losing their fitness and they're catching the flu. It's just taper madness. And this is where a good coach like Mark in your corner will absolutely kind of keep you from losing your marbles, essentially. There's some hints and tips about what that will look like for you as well. And then another video, top 6 tips in terms of things that when you do start tapering, there's things you can do to keep yourself away from losing your marbles. Making sure you got your bike service back, making sure you're doing your packing checklist, you're double checking logistics, watching this video again, and also telling your friends to watch it. And also, and was it reading the athlete brief, making sure you've got everything worked out. If you've got support going over, where they're going to stand, where you're going to try and see them, etc. This stuff will matter massively on the day. And there's a couple, seeing as it's a looped course, there should be some really good spots too for the bike, maybe not so much, but the run course definitely. Um, and make sure you have that all mapped out. Okay, the last couple of bits myself and Mark will talk about is the actual day before. Again, I took this from last year's guide, but as you said, it's a Saturday race, so you get to check
Yep.
in and register and put your bike in the Thursday and Friday. Is that right?
You can definitely rack on the Friday. I think you can register on the Thursday as well. But I think bike racking is just the Friday for the long course.
Cool. And that's how you put in your bike and run bags on the when you're racking the bike as well the night before, yeah?
You do, yes. So on the Friday, put everything there that doesn't have your wetsuit in. Essentially, you keep another bag with you, which I think is a green one, which is your day bag. So you can rock up in the morning wearing your clothes and your tri suit. You can have in this other bag your wetsuit and your swim cap and your goggles, and obviously your timing chip that they'll give you at registration. So keep that on you. I tend to put that on me as soon as I get up in the morning and it doesn't come off again until the end of the race. And then as you're walking, after you've gone to transition in the morning on Saturday, as you're walking to the swim start, you take the clothes that you've been wearing to the event, put them in your bag, give them to the crew at the swim start, and you can pick that up at the end of the race and get changed into it if you want to afterwards.
And actually, that's a very important difference between Ironman and Challenge. Do you get your timing chip when you register as opposed to when you're checking your bike?
I believe, yes, my memory is correctly. I'm sure we had the timing chips when we registered, so you need to look after them, yes.
Cool. And I, by the way, agree with you. When I get it, I actually stick it on my on your right, so your left leg,
Left leg,
because
yeah.
again, otherwise it will get caught up in the gears, or your chain potentially. I just put it on. As I said,
Yeah.
like otherwise you want to get to the transition, and if you're staying 20, 30 minutes away in a hotel and you go like, "Oop, don't want it." And then transition opens at 6 a.m., closes at 7 to allow a 7:30 start. Any hints or tips you say in the morning? What's your top tip for just keeping yourself calm
Yeah,
on
I
race
mean,
morning?
it'll be dark at 6 in the morning. It was a beautiful day when we did it last time. It was mist in the air. They do have some pretty bright arc lighting up the transition area, but there's obviously dark bits as well. So I guess take a little head torch with you, just in case you need to start adjusting anything, just in case there's perhaps been a bit of wind the night before, or you've noticed something on your bike. Hopefully, you're not adjusting anything at the last minute, but if you do, take a head torch and at least you can see what you're doing.
Perfect, excellent. Okie doke. And then your great day in Amsterdam will start at 7:30 from the war start. Okay, so just before we wrap up, I just want to again highlight about, I think, say thank you very much to Mark for giving us time and huge amount of really useful tips. As you said, if you are looking to get a bloody good coach, I hope that translates to Americans well. There's his email address. It will be in the comments as well too. As in, like as you said, if he can manage to coach his wife to actually a full distance race without getting murdered or divorced, this boy knows how to work time management. Was it gets the progression right and all that. all of the science that you ever need. So do check him out. Um, so Mark, again, from behalf of all the viewers and myself, it's been lovely chatting to you. Thank you very much for it. I much appreciated. And is there any last minute tips or sort of any words you'd like to say to the viewers?
Just go and enjoy your next triathlon, especially if it's your first one. Don't worry about times. Obviously, there are some cut-offs, but I think you'll find if you do the training, the cut-offs won't be a problem. Don't go for a particular time. Just enjoy yourself, enjoy the day. You've done all the training, and it's just a fantastic feeling.
Yeah, 100%. Again, to echo that point as well, I tell my guys, your racing is the reward for the training. The training
Yeah,
is actually a lot harder itself because you're doing it in weeks and you haven't tapered, etc. And you also don't when you're on your long bikes, you do not have thousands of Dutch people screaming and applauding your name. So this it's actually easier on the day.
it
Um,
most certainly is.
Mark, we will leave it there. Thank you. How do I say thank you in Dutch? Do you know how to say it in
Thank
Dutch?
you, Vel.
Think of it.
Yeah.
This. That could be my new thing. My new thing. I sign off in the language of the race I'm actually was it reviewing. All right. Thank you about a million times, and we'll
You're
leave it
welcome,
there.
Steve. Thanks for your time as well. Thanks for doing all your podcasts on helping people to see what the courses are like.
Fantastic.